Hello everyone and welcome back to another weekly altered video. Going back to an old favourite, we've got Spelunky with our Afanas Senka list post-errata. Had a comment in a recent video asking if we would continue to play the old fella or move on to a different hero for the Izmir list. But I'm a bit of a relationship kind of guy, so we're going to give him every chance that we can to prove he's still playable. The To do so, we've done a somewhat sizable rebuild of the deck, but we'll start off by showing what it is that has actually changed. So now our one cost spells have fleeting. So what that means is no recurring anything that costs one or less from reserve. So we've dropped down on a few of those that I'll go through in a moment. The only ones that have actually made the cut are the copies of Magical Training and 2 copies of Beauty Sleep. Don't really enjoy playing those from reserve anyway. They're pretty good to recur, but we've got other options now. The ones that we dropped are cards like Rime Frost. It turns out that going down one card permanently to temporarily lock down one of your opponents isn't a great deal. We've also taken out the copies of Joyride for reasons that involve, what it is that we would have to get rid of from reserve. So getting rid of one of our 1-drops that we don't like playing anyway is usually a pretty good deal, but when the stuff that we're playing is more impactful because it costs more mana, less inclined to try and play those. And we were umming and ahhing about whether to play rare or common versions of Sap Infusion. So the rare copy of Sap Infusion does cost 1, so you don't actually get to recur it, so this support ability does not trigger at all. So we're on the common version for this as a full 3 of to replace those Joyrides that we used to have. And there's a few other changes as well. One of the big ones, we have changed to unique. So we were running a copy of red in this unique slot. Recurs a card whenever it goes to reserve from the expedition. So, obviously that card has been underperforming for us since Helping Hand was removed from the deck. So we're just going to try out this fella instead. So he returns a card from reserve to your hand. It doesn't have to be a spell necessarily, so that is a bonus. And whenever a card leaves your reserve during the afternoon, he gains 2 boosts. So 4 mana for 0/0/2, not fantastic, but he does buff himself to 2/2/4 straight away. Opens himself up to being removed by license withdrawal. Is a notable one. And if you can cast a spell from reserve after casting him, he bumps himself up to a 4/4/6. So he can get pretty big pretty quick. We'll see how he goes. Mostly interested in putting the card back in our hand and putting some stats on board. But yeah, that's the big change. Studious Disciple, Muna Caregiver, we've seen those ones before. Don't really have any options to replace those of a suitable power level, so we'll continue with them. But we've done a little bit of rejigging with the creatures. Obviously not getting the mana moths out of the copies of Neelam that we were running previously. We've gone up a little on the count of creatures. So Tooth Fairy, Mage Dancer, both pretty big staples in Izmir. Baba Yaga as well, but we've got a 2/2/2 split between some creatures that draw cards. So Scribbling Starfish can draw a card from reserve if it gains a boost, which you'll usually have because you've played a spell, but it is interactable. Baba Yaga, card from hand, and reasonable stats for what you're putting into it. And then copies of Pastry Chef as well. So any boosts that you put onto Pastry Chef when it's out the first time do contribute towards this reserve ability. So if it does have the 2 or more boosts, you draw a card. And if you can't get anything on it, you've always got the option to play spells to buff it as well. So we're going to try out two of those each, see how they go. If the deck were optimized, if we can figure out which one of them is the worst, we'll probably cut those to add two of the, one of each to the others to make up those rare slots. And we're also playing a copy of the Hunger as a late game pressure release valve. So if our opponent is massively set up, say, playing Hydrocena in green is a good example, or any big creatures, lots of landmarks. The Hunger will let us get rid of all of those and put some pressure on our opponent towards the late game. Only playing one of that. We do own the two, and if it does seem like a reasonable thing, we might go up to that one, but just having it as an option is good for now. Mentioned it earlier, but no copies of the Neelam anymore to play towards. We're kind of off exhaust as well. And the number of spells that we have that have cooldown has been heavily reduced. And additionally, we're not playing the Rime Frost anymore for the reasons I mentioned earlier. But everything else here is pretty reasonable. 3 off you goes, 2 Evanescence, 2 Banishing Gates, so 7 removal spells. You can play around with these ratios, but I think having the Banishing Gate in the list as a way to get rid of sizable permanents, is a bit of a necessary factor in the games at the moment. 3 Moth to a Flame, 2 Conjuring Seals as a way to loop through if we find a place to play them is pretty good. And 3 Field Reinforcements. So the thesis behind this card is a little bit different than the Ordis version. So we're on 3 of these as a way to see how good it is at the moment. However, if you're playing from a position where you're ahead in 1 or 2 of your expeditions, Field Reinforcements is not good in Ordis. Paying 2 to put 1 power on the board or draw a card, not ideal. But the Field Reinforcement as a spell in the Afanas list actually does still add power to the board. So it's 2 mana for 2/2/2 worth of power if you target the Ordis Recruit, and if you draw a card, you still get 1 power. So significantly better in this list. I have high hopes, but this can be considered as part of your draw package. So we've got the 3 Mage Dancers, the 6 Starfish Chef Baba Yaga, and the 3 Field Reinforcements. We actually have 12 ways to draw through the cards, actually 14 if you include the Conjuring Seals. So we should be seeing a lot of our deck throughout the game. We like to have options and draw to the outs that we need, either boosting our creatures or removing our opponents. Not much more to go through than that. So what we're going to do is crack on and get into game 1. I will see you there. Alright, and here we are with game 1 for our updated Afanas Senka list. See how he goes, post-errata. Keeping with the old name, Spelunky, big fan of that one. One of the better ones that I've come up with. And we are playing second versus an Aurak and Kibble. Alright, let's have a look here. So we've got 2 3-drop creatures that draw a card. Conjuring Seal. Probably get rid of Magical Training. And then 1 form of removal. Off you go versus Evanescence. So Aurak and Kibble may have ways to play some stronger creatures. I'm thinking if we play Baba Yaga first turn, trade 1 for 1, and we can play it for 2 and remove what they have. After that, Pastry Chef is going to be a little bit of a slower burn, so we'll probably get rid of him. Get rid of... Okay, so this looks like we'll be using 2 cards in our first 2 turns. So it'll be Baba Yaga, And then Baba Yaga plus off you go, turn 2. Chance at a redraw with the magical training at some point as well. We'll see how we go. Okay, there's our one copy of the Hunger. Probably a bit too early for that card, so we'll look at putting that into the mana later on, and not dealing too much. Okay, we take a 1 for 0. Our opponent just starts off with a good old-fashioned winter outfits. Sorry, pulled the mic away from that for a quick cough. Okay, so this is interesting. Could either draw another card, play magical training, try and buff it out of range of them. The magical training, at that point we'd have 4/3/3 power. So I'd expect to lose there. So I think we'll just get rid of the Hunger here. It's going to make our hand a little bit too awkward to maintain if we try and keep it around. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to that one. And then what we'll do is we'll drop the Baba Yaga here. Magical training. We'll follow up with our own one. However, it does have fleeting now. The second copy, a Moth to a Flame. Alright, so they don't know it necessarily, but they do have free reign. A Nancy. Just getting one out of that ain't too bad, but at least if it does get significantly large further through the game, we'll be able to say goodbye to that one. Alright, it's probably too many moths in our hand. Like to keep our options open. But we are flush with 3 drops here, so we can play some form of 3-drop creature, and then a copy of Off You Go as a follow-up. Playing second will be good here, because it means our opponent will have to play 2 cards before okay, so we could get 3/3/3 to contest here. We'll make a Moth on our hero side. It'll gain a boost. We do like to see that one. Let's see what they wish to do with their remaining. We shall Off You Go. Doesn't actually matter which one we send to the bin here. So they can put their magical training back into hand. Use that one for later. Take our medicine on that one, but we are gaining a bit of a lead here. Field Reinforcements and Tooth Fairy. I think we'll say goodbye to the field reinforcements. We'll start playing some stuff out of reserve as well. Anything we play from hand. If we do stop it from progressing, we're at the very least going to have to play something else. Alrighty. Okay, so we can only play one more card here. Can't play the off you go because we'll just be getting rid of our own moth. In terms of stats, the moth is the best creature that we can get in there. We'll have 6 power on board to their nothing, but we know they can contest, and if they have a XX3, they'll be able to block us on that side as well. So what we'll do, we'll play the Baba Yaga, Moon Caregiver. I'm not going to be able to boost that creature enough to get something back to hand. We'll just pass the turn here, so we won't get the Baba Yaga out of reserve, which is fine. It's a pretty low priority creature. I would have been much more devastated had our pastry chef been given fleeting, because then we never would have got our turn. And there you go. Raise their counter, nothing changes. We're still 2 expeditions ahead, which ain't too bad. Gonna have to start figuring out how to deal with that Lorak and Kibble for now. So they're going to have to play something from hand here to get any value out of their creatures. 002 gives them the performance counter, but it's not necessarily what they want to see. I do like the idea of the Banishing Gate. The Pastry Chef will be good at some point, but we do only have the 2 spells in hand, one of which is very expensive. So I think it's going to have to be either the Pastry Chef or the Scribbling Starfish. We have another 1-drop with the Caregiver, so our turn could look something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll hold on to the Banishing Gate, so we could get rid of either the Moth or the Pastry Chef here. Alright, we'll have to say goodbye to the Pastry Chef here, unfortunately. Did line up pretty well with the mountain on the hero side, which is a little bit rough, but we do want to play some cards. The stage. We'll drop the Tooth Fairy, not Perry. Discard Mr. Monkey Man and see what they want to do with their turn. Acapella training, we're okay with that. We are currently unable to get both boosts. On to our Moon Caregiver. So I think we'll just challenge on both sides. Play our Starfish, start playing towards getting a card from that little guy. And then we've got options. Alright, depending on what the last card in their hand is. Character with a base statistic of 0. So if we put him in reserve and they play another character that triggers him, they will get a boost on it. But I think we do it anyway. Don't have much else to do with our hand. If we play anything else from hand, we are going to have to remove something to the discard. Now this is a pretty rough choice. They have a pretty good chance of playing anything with 0 in either brown or blue. But I think we'll target the Starfish as a way to insulate against the winter outfits. Okay, Hathor definitely does it, so we trade 1 for 1 here. Two Mage Dancers. I do like those. We don't actually have a great way of triggering them. 1, 2. So I think we'll get rid of one of those. My hand just isn't very well set up. No instances of sap infusion, which would really unlock our hand right now. I think we're going to look to trade 1 for 1 here. Alright, we'll play the Moon Caregiver. What that does is it opens up the chance for us to play both Banishing Gate and Moth to a Flame as a way to boost the Caregiver. Try and see what our opponent's last card in hand is. Contortionist, so they don't actually advance their plan here at all, which is good for us. Okay, bit of counting time. How many stats could they get out onto the field? So they can play both the Guitarist and the Hathor. 1, 2, 3. They won't have to discard anything to reserve either. So I think we'll try and load what we can into this side, get a boost on our caregiver, and be able to send the moth to a flame back to our hand. Okay, so if we play the Banishing Gate, we can get rid of one of these guys. Is that worth more stats to us than playing the Starfish and the Mage Dancer? So Mage Dancer plus Starfish not drawing a boost would be 7, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7. They can provide no extra boost. Can we make it? And we can't really create a situation where we actually block them. We can only get an additional boost in here. So we would go to 5, 4, and they would be either 5, 6 or I think we still do it anyway. We'll get rid of the guitarist, because this lets us boost our caregiver the extra time we need to get the moth back to our hand. Unfortunately, we can't pick the Starfish. Oh, and they choose to pass. They could have blocked us. So we'll take that. A 1-for-1 is pretty good there. Okay, so I need to keep the 2 spells to try and trigger our Mage Dancer and draw a card. I do like the idea of the Tooth Fairy, and we could take the option to high roll with the Starfish and draw an additional card. 1, 2, we've got 3 creatures here, so we could get rid of the Mage Dancer, draw a card with the Starfish, see where we go from there. Or we just avoid our interaction. Don't play Tooth Fairy. We're far enough ahead that we could consider playing Beauty Sleep as well. If we sleep our own Mage Dancer, draw a couple extra cards, or draw 1 extra card at the risk of losing an expedition. So the caregiver gaining anchored is also pretty good. Oh, bloody hell. This is a tough choice. Alright, if our opponent is completely heads up, they could return the Scald back to hand, play the Contortionist, or, you know, do it the other way around, return the Contortionist, play the Scald. Try and I think we'll try and cut the Hathor out from them. Oh, but I really like the idea of keeping the Mage Dancer around. We don't necessarily have to drop anything, do we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we can replace either of the 2 drops with a Tooth Fairy if we get the chance. Alright, that was a pretty rough decision. These are all artists. Alright. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can play the Starfish, the Mage Dancer, Moth, and Beauty Sleep here. Alright. Getting the timer called on us. We shall draw a card. Field Reinforcements. Just unlock quickly. We do only have 1 second. Alright, we're going to play this unlocked a little bit here, just so we can manage our timer up in the top corner. We have been playing a fair bit slower than our opponent, so we'll try and catch up to that one. Alright, where are we going from here? What are we worried about? Okay, Hathor getting the magical training back. They're likely going to play that just to draw through one more of their cards. We haven't seen any sabotage out of our opponent yet. Tanuki is notably not an artist for the purposes of the stage. Does have a base statistic of 0. What we're going to do, we'll anchor the Mage Dancer. Moth to a Flame. Target the Mage Dancer with that boost there. We'll be able to boost something else as well and sleep one of their creatures. Back up to 35 seconds. BGA is very generous with its chess clock. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, but you do get chances to make decisions pretty quick after you've passed. So make sure you take advantage of that. Got to stay conscientious of it. If you ever get that TikTok, I think you've got 15 or 10 seconds left to play. Tapping the stage means they want to be playing the Lyra Scald here. Winter outfits. So that's an interesting choice, because I guess we're going to find out now, but I believe that the wording on the stage means you have to play it here. So what we'll do, we'll sleep the Contortionist. gain the boost on our Mage Dancer. We'll boost our little starfish guy, make him happy, you know. He's already pretty happy there. Sorry, I'm pointing at the screen, but yeah. Stoked little boy. Cloth cocoon. Okay. It's pretty good out of them. Could we have played around that? Potentially, but not anchoring it until later. Alright. Was worried about sabotage, probably shouldn't have been. I think we'll get rid of the field reinforcements here. We're ahead on both sides, so you know, try and deal with that. We'll start off with a Tooth Fairy, discard the Scald there. Just use the, so we didn't actually get to find out, but our opponent did get the did use the 3 counters on their stage for no reason. We've missequenced our turn a little bit here, wanting to try and protect that Mage Dancer. Could have drawn an extra card here had we played that before the Moth to a Flame. Alright, we're just going to try and overload the side here. I am desperately hoping that it means very little to us that we missequenced that. I suppose had we played it out, it would have gone to sleep here. Still would have drawn our card, but it would have been less power on the board. Alright. Just pass here. We can actually take the 2 for nothing. Oh, they've hit us with the GG. Alright, there we go. Hit him with the GG, mate. That was a fun game. Enjoyed that one. Before we move on to the next game, just want to say, you know, we did get that timer warning in the middle of the game. And if you look up at our clock on the right here, we actually ended up with nearly 3 minutes on the board still. So, you know, playing quick does get you back to where you need to be to make decisions. So make sure you're paying attention to that one. Alright, that was good. Good showcase to start. I like how this one worked. Alright, on to game 2. Welcome back for game 2. This is Josh from the future. Unfortunately, when recording the audio for this video, the file got a little bit corrupted. It was a little bit hard to hear. So what I've done is I've gone back, muted the recording, and I'm just going to commentate over the top of it. Alright, we have a handful of 2-drops plus the 1-drop in the Moona Caregiver. 3 really strong creatures otherwise in the Mage Dancer and the Studious Disciple. Field reinforcements, obviously pretty good turn 1 because you always get the modality, the 2 options. But I believe what we're going to choose to do here is give up one of our uniques, being the Studious Disciple, one of the Mage Dancers. 2 of that in hand is just a little bit rough. And get rid of the copy of Field Reinforcements as well. That's going to leave us with 1 copy of Mage Dancer, 1 Moona Caregiver, and 1 Sap Infusion in hand, which maps out our first 2 turns pretty well. We'll be able to play the Caregiver, boost it with the Sap Infusion, and return that one to hand, get a second trigger out of that one, which we would then be able to use with the Mage Dancer to use up our full 4 mana, draw a bunch of extra cards, and if the Caregiver is still in reserve at that time, we can anchor it and keep it around. Draw an additional card, keep a bunch of power on board as well. Sap Infusion plus Mage Dancer adds 4 power to that creature in particular, so we'd end up with 5/5/5 stats on board, which is pretty threatening. Good place to hang around. If you want more instances of anchored in your version of Izmir decks, you can look at the rare copy of Muna Caregiver as well. However, we just have it as a one-off in our unique slot because of the spell return. It's just a little bit of extra gravy that we have that as an option. But I'm very thankful for that right now. Alright, our opponents use their full 3 mana on a Will-o'-the-Wisp. Just doing a little bit of math in my head at this point in the game, I believe, which is counting up how many stats the Caregiver plus Sap Infusion gives us. The answer is 4, 3, 4, so we would not be able to contest the Will-o'-Wisp on that side. Now, because our opponent used their full 3 mana, we don't actually have to reveal that we've got a Sap Infusion in hand here, so we're just going to pass, which is a nice little bit of information to hide, I guess. Had we played it out, we'd have been able to recur it back to hand, so nothing is lost by not playing it here. And we'll move on to turn 2. We're playing first, and barring any crazy information out of the 2 new cards that we draw, we're just going to look to play the Mage Dancer plus Sap Infusion and anchor the Mage Dancer like I mentioned earlier. 2 copies of Sap Infusion. I usually like to keep my options varied when looking at hands, but the Conjuring Seal is just significantly less useful than the second copy of Sap Infusion that we can keep here. A little bit later in the game we might have made a different choice, but as it stands now we just want cheap things to play so we can recur multiple things. Alright, giving ourselves the option there, we're playing the Mage Dancer, looking at the Sap Infusion. Depending on what our opponent wishes to do, we shall be actioning that line. Puts 5 stats on one side, and we're very happy to handshake a 1-for-1 trade with our opponent here. So they drop a tiny Djinn, give it the boost, so they'll be ramped ahead of us for the remainder of the game until they choose not to put something in reserve. So they've either +1 card or +1 mana for the remainder of the game. We'll drop our Sap Infusion, and it puts the 5 stats on our creature as I mentioned earlier. I think our opponent's going to take a little bit of time here just to do some maths themselves, so they can't actually contest on that side with the Will-o'-Wisp, if obviously still have 2 other cards we don't know about. But if they were to play the Will-o'-Wisp out on that side, we'd still win 5-4 in green, and they wouldn't be able to contest in the other 2 areas either. I believe the choice they make is to just take the handshake, play the Will-o'-Wisp, hide what's remaining in their hand. We'll drop the anchored on the Mage Dancer, pass turn, and take the 1-for-1 once again. We've traded opposite sides, so we're actually lined up again on both expeditions, and we get a Scribbling Starfish to hand from the Mage Dancer. Always happy to see that little guy. His little smile lights up my day. So Field Reinforcements triggers both options here, but we do not get one. We get a Pastry Chef and a Tooth Fairy, 2 instances of draw from reserve. A bit of a slow burn on those guys. However, we get rid of the Tooth Fairy. Our opponent being on the play, even if they did have 1 card in reserve, they'd have the option to play it, but they don't have anything there anyway, so we'll get rid of that one, seeing as it's not useful to us right now. Our opponent's given us a bit of a gift with the Kitsune. Draw an additional card and get the Moth to a Flame. Always a good card, just stat neutral. We like that one. But we're going to play the Scribbling Starfish. We can look to play the Sap Infusion from reserve here, which is why we chose to play that over the Pastry Chef. If we'd played the Chef, we'd have had to boost it with the Sap Infusion from hand, which would put 1, 2, 3, 4 cards into reserve, which is obviously not what we want to try and avoid. As it stands, at the end of this turn, if our opponent gives us no more information, we'll be able to keep just the Starfish and the Mage Dancer in hand. However, they draw a Daughter of Yggdrasil from their hand, and we get a Banishing Gate, which is a pretty big deal, because we have the option here to contest in another way. Don't usually advocate spending 4 mana to try and get rid of 2 mana worth of character off the field, but the decision I think we end up coming to is that casting the Banishing Gate on the Kitsune will boost our Mage Dancer, allowing us to take the win in both sides here. Okay, so we've done a different thing. So we've played the Sap Infusion, kept everything out of reserve. We've buffed our Starfish to the point that it actually blocks our opponent on one side. If they have a 1 mana creature, they might be able to contest, but as I've indicated with the mouse there, the Spindle Harvester, which we would expect to see, actually makes no change to the board. So that is a pretty reasonably good turn from us. Going 2 for none at this point gives us a lot of room to sculpt our way to the win. Drawing an additional Mage Dancer off the Mage Dancer is good, or we like chaining those around. We've got 7 cards in hand and we're going to get rid of the second Moth to a Flame that we drew. Alright, playing on the turn 1, we are flush with options. We could play the Moth to a Flame, putting a counter on our Starfish. We could play the Mage Dancer from reserve for 1 mana, see what they want to do with the remainder of their, cards in hand. That Daughter of Yggdrasil is pretty scary. So we could look to either sleep that or banish it with our gate and put some pressure on them there. Alright, a Sustenance ramps both players and draws our opponent a card. We've put our copy of the Hunger into the mana zone, so we don't have that as a late game option anymore. However, being 2 expeditions ahead of the previous turn, we could reasonably just trade 1 for 1 here, and limp our way to the win. That Sap Infusion that we had in turn from earlier just lets us continue the stream of cards into our hand, puts 5 mana on the board with 3 mana remaining to use. So if our opponent plays the Daughter of Yggdrasil, we can still continue to contest on that side. Obviously they'll still have 2 mana left over, but if we look at it, playing the 2 cards that they have available puts 8 brown power onto the companion side, so our opponent may choose to just handshake here. As with the 3 mana on board, we could continue to contest. Alright, they do drop the Daughter of Yggdrasil out. I forgot about the Taja and Nora boost, so they would have had 9 mana on that side. That might have been a step too far. We'll play our Starfish. We do have a choice to make here, but we are going to draw an extra card, because what we're going to look to do, I believe, is sleep that Daughter, especially now that we've got 2 in hand. Now, the Afanas nerf obviously coming into play here. We're not going to have a second chance to play that Beauty Sleep from reserve for 3 mana. Wouldn't necessarily want to do that anyway. However, it is another option that we want to think about. Whenever they change cards, it's important to remember what's going on. So sleeping the daughter here, our opponent's tapped out a mana. They could play a 1-drop with the Bountiful Meadow, so the Spindle Harvester would have blocked us here, so we're just going to put the boost on our Starfish as protection for that. They wouldn't have been able to advance, but we do get to take a 2 for 9 here by doing that. Pretty comfortable with where we're at, drawing a Field Reinforcements off of that Mage Dancer trigger, probably sending that one to reserve. I think we're mostly looking for some form of removal here. Don't get it. I get the Mage, the Katagirian Alchemist, and a Sabotage in the Tooth Fairy. Playing second, might not get the opportunity to get rid of that Kitsune, but we'll keep it just as an option if our opponent gives us the window. And our opponent drops a Loki, so their cards all get discarded. So do ours. We get replaced. Get it replaced with 3, which is thoroughly disappointing. Definitely in control of the game, but we have to reassess here. We've still got the Tooth Fairy. We've got a copy of Scribbling Starfish and 2 Sap Infusions as well. So if we count that out, we've got 2 mana for the Tooth Fairy, plus 3, plus 2, plus 1. So we can actually spend everything we have available to us. So if we just dump out our hand, we can potentially contest here. Going to take a little bit of mathing out. So we've got the Starfish for 1, and then the 2 Sap Infusions. So the Sap Infusion from hand actually increases the boost on the Sap Infusion from reserve. So if we count it out, we've got 1 power from the Starfish, 3 from the hand Sap Infusion, and then 5 more from the one in reserve. 2 arcane counters, plus 2, plus 1 from Afanas. 5 plus 3 plus 1 is 9. So barring any 1 mana or 2 mana creature shenanigans from our opponent, we've actually locked the game up here. Very happy with that one. I would say we were a little bit lucky to draw what we did. Obviously could have just been left a little bit out of luck had we been unable to play out all the cards in our hand. But we do secure the win here. Going 1 for 1. Could have actually beaten the Loki as well. But that would just be style points at that point. We're going to take the cheapest available win, or the easiest available win to us. There you go. Actually a pretty nice quick one. Thank God it wasn't the 30-minute grind we had previously that got corrupted. But yeah, see you in the next game. Alright, and here we are with game 3 of Afanas Senka. It's been going well so far. Not stressing out too much. Missing out on all of the exhaust and the interactions this deck has with the Neelam. Alright, what do we got here? A lot of 1-drops. Evanescence is going to be good as well. Can make that can bounce a more token at any time. So we're keeping that. Getting rid of this. 2 magical training seems like a lot. We don't actually have a way to boost the caregiver twice in a turn. So I'm wondering if the Starfish is better. Yeah, we'll try it. I think I've got a little bit of a blind spot for Scribbling Starfish. Okay, they've got a Barber's Ispar, sack outlet. So we'll look at what they want to do with that one. Got the Moonlight Jellyfish. I think we just rip the Evanescence off on that now. Take a 1-0 lead early on. Had we used magical training and left the jellyfish in play, we would have been down 0-1. So we'll take that now. Field reinforcement or magical training. I think we'll just send this guy. We get to go, and we're going to rip the Tooth Fairy straight away. Get rid of that Moonlight Jellyfish. No card draw for you, no sacrifice. You know, get out of my face with that. That was aggressive, I'm sorry. Let's see what they want to do. At least they're going to have to use cards from hand for that. What do you want to get rid of? Yeah, the Starfish. It's a good shout. They did have the jellyfish. Alright, that's 2 of those out of the way. Yeah, they'll be able to sacrifice the jellyfish, send it to reserve. Buff that, so they've evened everything up. Did cost them a few cards in hand though. I like the Beauty Sleep because it's a way. The Mage Dance is one of the best cards in the deck, but I actually like the Beauty Sleep here as a way to buff the Disciple, recoup the I think it's a little bit too adventurous to just straight up rip the Evanescence off for 4 on another one of the jellyfish. Technically a 2-for-1. 1 card of ours out of the deck from reserve as well for 2 of their creatures. We just rip the Sleep here. See what they want to do with their remaining mana. They've got a lot of cards in hand, so we'll accept whatever it is that they wish to do. Tooth Fairy doesn't do much for them, so we can just block with ours, bring the Evanescence back. Pretty big fan of that as a line. Alright, we'll just pass here. It's fine. I'm bringing the Evanescence back as a way to relatively cheaply remove that More token. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, Baba Yaga it is. Playing the Studious Disciple here opens us up to removal. Removal would be open to anyway if we played out the other 3 cards of our hand and used its support ability, so we're just going to play it anyway. If they have an off you go, that's fine. We'll draw our card. Ooh. Make an Ordis recruit to contest them more, so they have to make another one here if they wish to. Didn't get a 1-drop, so we can't play any extra cards out here. Rip the Evanescence that they know we have in hand. Give a boost to our recruit, so that if they create a character, then sacrifice another, we do at least block there, unless they obviously find a way to. There you go. Yep, that'll do it. Going 1 for 1 here. Still not too mad about it. Threaten. We'll keep the Sabotage because that gives us more options. 6, 7. Actually, think we'll keep. Not sure about that. Banishing Gate. I don't know how good that's going to be. Getting rid of one of their Ispas when they have 2 is a lot less exciting than getting rid of the only one they have. Obviously, they would have been able to. What does this do? When I'm sacrificed, if you control one or more landmarks, draw a card. When I leave the expedition, if I have 2 boosts, draw a card. Now, there was a visual bug going on with this copy of Evanescence before. I don't know if anyone saw it. Obviously, you know, you're not playing live. You'll be watching a recording of this, so you might be able to go back to the start of this turn or the end of the previous turn where it showed that it had 2 counters on it. And then when it added another counter, it actually went down to the 1. So what we'll get here, if they have... If they have a 1-drop, the Moonlight Jellyfish... No, more can only go into the companion zone. So we'll just leave it at that. We could have played the Mage Dancer out and tried to force them to play the more and sacrifice all of that. They're probably going to do it anyway because they get to draw a card this way. So we would have just thrown the Mage Dancer away there. Have to put a bunch of stuff into reserve. So these are equivalent now. But I'm going to get rid of the Evanescence. I think off you go if it plays from hand. If we have a way to recur it, it's going to be better. Oh, there's another one. Banishing Gate is going to be the go here. One, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9. We are 1 mana short of being able to play all of our 2 drops plus the Moth. Off you goes right off. I think what we'll do is play the Baba Yaga here. See if they fire off their Maw. No, Chrysalis. They will. We are no longer able to... I should have thought of that. Okay, so I've made a small misplay here. Leaving us with 4 mana and 5 to play our spells out of hand. It's actually pretty rough. Because it means we no longer get to trigger our Mage Dancer this turn. Alright, that was foolish of me. We'd have more power on one side had we not played the Baba Yaga out, and also we would have drawn an additional card. Yeah. Alright, this seems to be the pivotal turn of the game. We are going to lose tempo here. Unless they play nothing else out of hand. Even a magical training here would have been better. That's alright. That's on me. The better play here would have been to drop the Mage Dancer first, then the Moth to a Flame, and then off you go. On the companion side, trade 1 for 1 and still continue to tread water. Now, as a result of that, we're going to have to go down. We're obviously missing a card from not drawing with the Mage Dancer. We're going to have to get rid of something out of reserve. Not that big a loss. The off you go. The off you go would have been good at some point, but we've got another one in hand, so that's not too big an issue, but not optimal. We are likely to lose this expedition as well. Okay. We only go down 1, so we are definitely not in the driver's seat. I haven't seen any removal out of our opponent either, so they're sort of just running over us with stats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I like the off you go. The Moth is obviously good stats. as well. Magical training is fleeting, so we don't actually get a chance to trigger it from the thing. 1, 2, 3. I think we just hold on to the cards here and see what we want to do. Tooth Fairy to remove the Mage Dancer. Very reasonable from our opponent. Contest there, give that a boost. And that's why we wanted to keep an extra card in hand. So what we'll do, we'll cast the Moth, we'll put it on the companion side for the inevitable maw that they're going to create. 3 power is much better than 2, because it means they have to sacrifice 2 things to compete here. And what we're expecting to see, alright, and off you go. Counter with one of our own. Get rid of the Maw token. Still one behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No copy of the Hunger just yet. That may be our best out for this game. Oh, we did draw it. Two, three, 4 is a 9. So Pastry Staff, Evanescence, off you go. Ugh, Pastry Chef, Evanescence, off you go. 3, 7, 9. I guess we try this. I don't like the idea of opening ourselves up. Might be a turn too late here. Mobile Armory. Yeah, we're going to be a turn too late here with the Hunger. They're going to be able to make their Maw token, off you go our Pastry Chef, and win the game there, but it was a close one. Had some options, definitely made a mistake at 1.2. Yeah. That's alright. I wonder, yeah, obviously having the Gift of Self there, nothing for our off you go to target, means we may have got a little bit of value out of the off you go that we wouldn't have before playing the Pastry Chef. But I think they've just outvalued us here. Interesting, I guess. They must not have a creature in hand. They can't play Off You Go anymore. So they need to find a way to put 3 power into the hero side for their 3 mana. Obviously there are cards that do it. Baba Yaga does it. Haven't seen one out of her opponent yet. They might be playing Gift of Self in that slot. Although I fully just would have expected them to Off You Go one of our creatures. Like if they play the Disciple, yeah, our opponent missed winning there. See what they want to commit to board here. Tooth Fairy's fine. Tooth Fairy's fine because even though it sabotages a thing out of reserve, it puts another character into play. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They make their token. Gift of Self. Chrysalis. Guess that's fine. There's nothing we can do to actually stop them. Ah. That is a card that I did not expect. But that's alright. Wouldn't have won anyway. It's alright. GG. Well played to them. I guess they were just hyping themselves up for the cool ending there. Did not expect boom out of them. Alright, there you go. That's our 3 games done. On to the debrief. See you there. Alright, and there we have it. A 3-game series done with Afanas Senka, a 2-1 record against Muna, Lyra, and an Izmir Mirror. Well, not the mirror, but you know what I mean. 2 purple decks. You know, really fun games. Had a lot of things to do. You know, kept ripping through cards. I did misspeak in the intro as well, saying that we had 14 copies of cards to help us draw. It's actually 17 with the magical trainings, you know, so undersold ourselves a little bit there, but it really did feel it. We had a lot of cards in hand most of the time. Really enjoyed where this deck ended up. And I wouldn't have many changes to make. I think I'll have to look when the new set comes out if anything does get altered. But, you know, I'd be pretty happy to run this list at a weekly or a tumult event or something like that. So, you know, can't be too upset that we got so close to the mark. A couple of changes would mostly be with ratios here, I think. Field reinforcements is just a bit too rough. I think what we'd end up doing is maybe playing an additional Baba Yaga in that spot, just secure the draw, rather than having to make the choice between drawing a card and putting a creature into play. Going down a spell, up a creature, you know, not fantastic. I want to keep that density, so we keep triggering Afanas once or twice a turn. And I think what we do is we might go down a draw spell, say get rid of a Conjuring Seal, and go up an Evanescence, so we've got ways to deal with those pesky little creatures that our opponents are dropping around in the early game, and anything else we can sort of pick off tactically as well. Apart from that, deck felt really good. Couple of little flubs. Did mention it at one point, but by sequencing our cards incorrectly and not thinking about what it was that we were doing by playing the Baba Yaga from reserve, we missed out on an extra draw from a Mage Dancer, and that might have cost us. We're most likely losing, but you've got to give yourself every opportunity to draw the cards that you need. What's the point of putting cards in your deck if you don't see all of them all the time? It was a little bit unfortunate that we didn't get to see the hunger pop off at the end there. Did a really good job, and then our opponent had it covered with a copy of Boom, which I wasn't expecting out of Linda Wayne Moore. Probably should have. The text on that card is pretty good for them. And I'll be more aware of that in the future, so that can be, I suppose we can consider that a little bit of a level up. But it was there. I think it's good to have it in the deck as an option. Card's just, supremely powerful, and if you ever do get to the point where you can play this and a follow-up creature to win those expeditions, say that's you got a pretty good shot of winning the game there. Probably wouldn't go up to 2 if that were the case, though. Everything else pretty tried and true. Actually had fun playing the list, which was not always the case when playing the Neelam version that we had earlier. Maybe if you go back and watch that video, please do. I'm desperate for the views. I think you can probably hear it in my voice that I wasn't having too great a time. So it's nice to see that even after the nerf, we've got the character back by being a little bit different with the deck that we were playing. Finally, the Mage Dancer. That one's fine, I think. I don't mind it. Bit overcosted for what it is that you get back, but can be some silly little plays that you make there. So we'll think about that. I reckon if Helping Hand is ever brought back into the format, we will probably look at swapping the red back out for this Alchemist, but until then, I'm pretty happy to have this one here. Alright, there you go. Thank you for the time. It's very much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed making it. And I'll see you next time. Love your work.